Hey there, island dreamers, locals, and anyone craving a slice of paradise. Welcome back, or welcome for the first time, to the Fun and Key West podcast, where the vibe is always laid back, the stories are salty, and the drinks, well, they're definitely frozen. I'm your host, Michelle O'Connor, your unofficial tour guide to the Conquered Public. Whether you're planning your first trip, your fifth trip, or you're just daydreaming about trading the cubicle for the ocean breeze, you are in the right place. Here's the deal. This podcast is your insider's guide to all things Key West. We're talking where to eat, hello, conch fritters and key lime pie, where to drink, spoiler alert, there will be rum, where to stay, and all the quirky, wonderful things that make Key West the one-of-a-kind paradise we all love. Plus, we'll keep you up to date on the latest happenings, festivals, events, maybe even the occasional Hemingway lookalike sighting. And just to keep things spicy, we'll be bringing on some amazing guests now and then, locals, business owners, and people who know the island like the back of their sandy hand. So grab your flip-flops, pour yourself a cold one, and let's escape to the island state of mind together, whether you're tuning in from your hammock or your commute, while wishing it was a hammock. We've got all the Key West goodness coming your way. Thanks for being here. It's going to be a lot of fun in Key West. Let's dive in. Okay, picture this. It's the 1870s. You're ditching the cobblestone streets of Manhattan for warmer weather, and your ride isn't a cramped middle seat on a budget airline. Nope. You're boarding a fancy steamship with mahogany lounges, velvet curtains, and multi-course meals. Your destination? A little island at the end of the road called Key West. Welcome to Historic Marker Monday, where we peel back the layers of Key West history, one plaque at a time. I'm Michelle, and today we're talking all about the company that literally put Key West on the map, the Mallory Steamship Line. This wasn't just any shipping company. This was the lifeline between the North and the South, cutting travel time from 9 days by sail to just 4 by steam. We're diving into the story of its founder, Charles Mallory, the rise of his 70-ship empire, and how Henry Flagler's railroad eventually came along and said, "Thanks, I'll take it from here." So get ready to set sail back in time as we explore the golden age of steam travel. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Historic Marker Monday. Today we are going to dive in to a place that no longer is active, but there's a place there that you can go see, and we'll get into the whole story. But picture this. It's the 1870s. The cobblestones of lower Manhattan are echoing with carriage wheels, and along the piers, there's elegant steamships, and they're loading passengers bound for warmer seas. And their destination? A little tiny island at the end of the Florida Keys, Key West. This is the story of the Mallory Steamship Line, and which was the lifeline between the North and the South, and the company that literally put Key West on the map. So it all started with Charles Henry Mallory, and he was the son of a shipwright, and he grew up in Mystic, Connecticut, and he started sailing packets in the 1830s. Now, for those of you who don't know what a sailing packet is, I had to look it up too. It's a steamship, and it's a ship that is used to carry cargo, usually U.S. mail and things like that. So he starts off, and that's what he's doing. And then by the Civil War, he's already a respected shipbuilder, and he then contracts in the Civil War to build ships for the U.S. Navy. So he does gunboats and troop transports, which gives him both capital and shipyard credibility. And if we lead into where this takes him into the beginnings of his steamship line. He recognized early on in what he was doing that steam would eventually and should outpace the sailing ships. And because they were faster, they were more reliable, and he could run them on a strict time schedule. So he sets up the steamship line, and it goes from New York to Key West, and then from Key West to Galveston, and then back. By 1873, He had regular passenger and freight service that was established. And by 1876, he was doing the U.S. mail contract. Back then, if you were aboard a sailing ship, it took you about 9 days to take that trip. By steam, it was 4 days. When one left New York, he had it set up that this was a really neat schedule, and it was very on time so he could get as most of the value that he could possibly get. So when the steamship left New York, another one left Key West so it maintained this weekly rhythm, and they would pass each other. To keep up the rhythm, though, he needed at least 6 ships in this rotation. And by his height of when he was running all of this, there was over 70 ships in operation. In 1898, I found this fascinating. In 1898, a first class ticket could range from anywhere from $20 to $60. In today's dollars, that's $700 to $2,000. It was cheaper, but in some respects, but it was absolutely the quickest way to get there. There was an excerpt from the Mallory Line timetable back in the 1920s, and it said, sailings every Thursday at 3 p.m. from Pier 36, North River. Cuisine and service unexcelled. Staterooms large and airy. So you have a fleet of ships that are about 70 plus, and they're built up in the Delaware River shipyards. And he had signature ships that he ran. And he also had the SS Henry R. Mallory back in 1916. And this ship actually transported thousands of troops in World War I. But tragically, it was sunk by a German U-boat in 1943, where over 250 souls were lost. But when you start to look at some of these steamships from the brochures that I was able to find online, these first class lounges, they featured mahogany paneling, velvet draperies, and crystal chandeliers. And the dining rooms served multi-course meals at fixed times. And so the brochure said passengers dine in a style equal to the best hotels of New York. Steerage passengers, though, those that were not traveling by first class, did not have all of those wonderful amenities. They had simple bunks in shared quarters, and they had an entirely different experience. You had a lot of immigration and migration for using the Mallory line. It was the gateway for settlers heading to Texas and Florida, down from New York and over. But you also had those class divides. First class had promenades and social dances, and the steerage passengers often were immigrants, and they endured cramped conditions, and in shipwrecks, they were usually the largest casualties. This, though, sparked tourism from the north down to the south. It brought early northern tourists to Florida back in the time, and it fueled cities like Jacksonville before that railroad was built. There was an 1880s traveler's diary that was put out, and it describes Key West arrivals that the wharf was alive with color as the Mallory steamer came in. Ladies in parasols, crates of pineapples, and soldiers in uniform mingled in the chaos. We all know the story about Henry Flagler and his railroad and how he built that. And when he reached Key West by 1912, he cut the need for coastal steamers. There was no longer a need for that. It was cheaper and easier to take the rail. But we know by the 1920s and 30s, Americans preferred cars and roads for the flexibility. So they ended up not being able to survive and pivot into something new. But they tried. So the Mallory Steam Line merged with another entity, and they became part of the Clyde Mallory Line. But by 1941, they decided to close up shop and it closed down. Again, they were replaced by faster and cheaper alternatives. What's left of the Mallory's ticket line is the office. This was originally built whenever it was at its height. It was then rebuilt after the Great Fire of 1886. Building that you see today is actually alongside Mallory Square, and that was moved there in 1962 as a remnant of the Mallory Steam Line. Of course, when you go to Mallory Square, what do you see today? It's the place for sunset celebrations. You go celebrate all of the things that are Key West. You go celebrate the day that you had. You celebrate all of the performers and the artists that are there at Mallory Square. and you toast to the sunset that's amazing and only can be seen in Key West. Some of the takeaways I thought about this were the Mallory line. It absolutely exemplified the golden age of coastal steamships, but also showed how quickly technology took it over. It was not able to adapt and survive. Today in Mallory Square, you have some of those steam era things to look back on. You have the ticket line and all of that, or the ticket booth, but you have the beauty and the art that surrounds it. And what a piece of travel technology today, like planes and cars or even cruises, what do you think might become someday as antiquated as the Mallory steamer? I thought about that as a question that was put out there on some of the information I was looking at. And I thought, I can't imagine anything today. I bet at the height when people were traveling by steam, they did not think about that would be replaced by the railroad. And then while people were out and about and doing all those things on the railroad and traveling by rail, I don't think they thought it'd be replaced by cars. Who knows? Airplanes probably replaced a lot of cars, but a lot of us still love those road trips. As you explore those historic markers, and this is what we do on Mondays, is we check in and check out all of those historic markers that are found throughout Key West. You can see and learn all about, like I said, the history of steamships and the railroad and technology as it came to Key West, but also about the people who built these systems and built these businesses and how they survived or didn't or had to evolve. Be sure to check out those historic markers as you wander through Key West and figure out the stories behind the house and the people. And it just makes the Key West that much more endearing to all of us. You can learn a lot more about the historic markers over on FunInKeyWest.com. There is a self-guided tour over there, plus lots of information, including information on how to sign up for our book club. We always have some sort of Key West connection on our book club every month. And it is September of 2025. And we have just launched a new book. So be sure to check out what we're reading and come join all the fun on our Facebook group. I hope you have enjoyed everything that we are putting out. And we are looking to do a little bit of a twist on some of the updated posts that we're doing. So, not necessarily the best places to do X, Y, or Z, but maybe the best way to enjoy those places. So, stay tuned for other episodes this week on what we will be talking about in Key West and how we can help make your next visit to Key West absolutely amazing. You guys enjoy your Monday and talk to you later. Bye. And just like that, the golden age of steamships gave way to railroads and cars. Wild, right? Next time you're at Mallory Square soaking in that world-famous sunset, take a look around. That little ticket booth isn't just a quaint photo op. It's a time capsule from an era when getting to Key West was a grand adventure all on its own. It's a testament to the boom, the bust, and the constant evolution that makes Key West so darn interesting. Thank you so much for nerding out on some Key West history with me today. If you loved this story, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single Historic Marker Monday. We've got so many more stories to uncover. Until next time, keep exploring, keep wondering, and always take a second to read those plaques. You never know what you're going to learn.